Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here again, and a lot of new faces. Old face, hello. My name is Anson Sat, and yes, I'm a public speaker, and I teach public speaking as a profession. People who need to take the stage, I help coach them to be confident on the stage. But today, I've been invited to speak about a very important topic: values. Now, this class is not a philosophy class, so I'm not going to go very, very deep in terms of values, but this topic is very important to me because, well, quite frankly, why are we here? I see that you are starting to blank out, but that's okay. When I was growing up, I didn't actually find out until maybe I was 5 or 6 years old, and my parents told me that my father was actually an orphan. An orphan. He didn't have any parents. And the reason why is because he grew up during World War II. Now, don't do any math, because then you'll figure out how old I am. But my father never actually knew his parents because when he was about 1 or 2 years old, his parents died. And he was left to take care of himself in the streets of Hong Kong. And the only people that were his relatives was his uncle and 13 of his children. So you can imagine that my father never really had a role model. Now, what does that have to do with us, with me? I actually grew up trying to figure out values on my own. Why? It's because my father never actually learned values himself through a mentor or father figure or some sort of parent. He had to figure things himself. And because he never really knew which values were actually important, I actually needed to figure that out myself. Now, one thing I got to share with you, I, of course, was once a university student. And in my first year, actually, no, I think it was like second or third year, international economics or law of economics. And my eyes were heavy. And my professor was talking about something that I couldn't understand. And I closed my eyes. And the professor came right to my face and he screamed, "Wake up!" My heart just jumped out of my chest and I had to get my heart and put it back. And I'll never forget that moment because he was trying to wake me up to learn some values. He valued what he was teaching. He valued passing on what he was teaching. And he saw that I didn't value that. And he woke me up. So, in the next hour or so, I'm going to share with you some examples of values. And in the end, I hope you can find out for yourself what are some things that are really important to you. Okay, that's who I am. One other thing, too, that I'm particularly proud of is I was able to represent Taiwan 3 times in the International Speech Contest hosted by Toastmasters. And in that, I learned a lot about valuing growth, valuing learning, and valuing the camaraderie when it comes to competition. It's not really just, we're just competing to be number one. So I want to share some of that with you as well. I have an mission for you. I have GAS. GAS stands for Gear Acquisition Syndrome. I bought another camera. I have a camera right there. It's recording. It's just an ordinary camera. But these are the other cameras that I have. Sony RX0 Mark II, Sony X3000R, Sony NEX6, A7C, ZV-1, ZV-10, ZV-E1, and I got DJI Action 2 and also the Pocket 3. Now raise your hand if you have a camera. Yes? Raise your hand, you have a camera. Actually, everyone should be raising their hands because you have a smartphone, okay? Everyone has a camera. Now, do you use your camera for some social media? Instagram, IG? Yes? Facebook? Oh no, I'm old, so I use Facebook. Okay? All right. Not only the cameras, I also own a ton of accessories. Those aren't mine, but you get the idea. I like to collect a lot of things. And I hope my wife is not going to watch this video. So from this example, let me ask you this question. What do I value from this guess? What do I value from acquiring all these things? Now, this is the first time, Professor, you know, this is the first time I'm using QR code to interact with the students. So please try to scan this QR code. So the question is, what do I value from the camera example? Okay, can you write down your answer and then press send? I think there's press send. Let me check. Okay, so I'm getting in some answers. Graphics and mobility, quality. I think that if you want to buy the same thing, you just buy the higher end one. Very good. These are excellent. Somebody has a A7 IV. Okay, I don't have that one. Okay. Memories, very good. Enjoy the moments, capturing the moment, valuing creativity, personal growth. These are all excellent answers. The important moment in life. Okay, how about one more minute? Anybody else wants to submit an answer? These are all very good. Okay, memories, personal goals. Yes, that's very good. Excellent. Record good memories. Fantastic. Okay, so even though you don't know me, and knowing that I have so many cameras, there are different value points, right? But what I value is capturing the moment perfectly so other people can appreciate me. Okay? Capturing the moment perfectly so people can appreciate me. But you see, I bought so many cameras, people might think, oh, well, maybe this person is materialistic, or maybe this person has different values in, maybe I'm just a Sony fan. If I didn't buy those DJI products, maybe I might be. So today I'm going to talk about just a few things about value. What is actually value and why does it matter to you? And how are they formed? And how do they affect your life? I want to talk a little bit about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and talk about decision-making and relationships. All right. So what are the top 5 questions about life? I don't think, when I was your age, I thought, today is Monday. What should I do on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday? That's probably what I did when I was 19. Okay? Which club should we go to? Okay, so I didn't think about this. And my father didn't think about that either. His value was, which lake should we go fishing? Okay? But now I'm being older and questioning life itself, I have a few questions. But I think we can all distill these questions into 5 simple questions. Okay, everyone read number 1. Yeah. This is a question that people have been asking since the beginning of time. Who am I? I'm not going to answer that. We're just going to ask the question because this class is about values. Okay, number 2. Everyone read. Why am I here? Okay. Besides credits, why am I here? Okay, number 3. What do I really want? Okay, somebody wrote down, I have no idea, right? But what do I really want? Okay, number 4. What is holding me back? Which, by the way, number 4, the self-help industry is like billions and billions and billions, okay? So number 4 is a question that many people want to have answered. And number 5. What happens when I die? Okay, so these are the top 5 questions that people ask when it comes to the whole concept and meaning of life. So write these questions down because later on you can think about that. Because when you start answering this, things become clear. All right, so let me give you an example of values. Okay, so let me just give you some context. I was teaching some children public speaking, and instead of staying in the classroom, I decided to take them outside. And they're like, why? I'm like, I teach you public speaking. The key word is public. So we went to a night market, Liuhe Night Market. Raise your hand if you've been to Liuhe Night Market. Yeah, very good, very good. Okay, good. So Liuhe Night Market, and they were practicing their speech when I thought of an idea.
You can celebrate at the Wanyan Folklore Festival in Seoul. This local event is filled with music, dance, and a festive atmosphere. Visit the Dragon and Tiger Pagodas. These are 2 tall towers with colorful decorations. You can walk through the dragon's mouth and come out of the tiger's mouth. It's said to bring good luck. Trash, dirty water, and chemicals into the rivers. Nothing is near. Let's see how strong you really are. Not river gas. What are you doing? Stop throwing garbage in my water. But the polluter just laughs at the rhythms of the nature's harmony. We'll always protect you, the people promise, and we'll always protect you, the rivers reply. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so the context of that was the kids were practicing. I came up with an idea because at the front of the night market there were some perhaps homeless people or they were begging for money. I saw an old man, he had a bucket with maybe $10 or $20. And so I said to the kids, I said, hey kids, we have a chance to do something good. You can practice your speech, and at the same time, you can help these beggars. And so I talked to a couple of the beggars, and one, the old man, he said, okay. And so he moved closer to the night market, and they did their speech. And anybody want to guess how much was donated to the old man? Anybody want to guess? 20,000? Okay, they weren't that good, okay? 20,000 is a little bit too high. Anybody else want to guess? Okay, let me just tell you that they were speaking for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 30 minutes. 5,000. Very good. Anybody else? Okay, it was close to 2,000. Okay, 2,000. So what does that say then? That says that we all have some sort of value. But values can make or break Why don't you guys read this list? I keep you guys interested. Okay, values can make or break. Number 1, a country. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so kind of think about that for a moment. Values can make or break a country. Okay, you guys listen to the news, you guys watch the news. We hear news about values of countries changing, and they predict, oh, because the values changed, this country is collapsing. That country is collapsing. China is collapsing. America is collapsing. UK is collapsing. Okay? We care about values. Okay, number 2, company. Which companies do you hear on the news that this company is collapsing? Okay, you might have heard of a company named Tesla, right? Tesla's collapsing. Why? Because Elon Musk has his values that he's going to cut billions of dollars from government spending. Okay? Also, perhaps maybe Apple. They're so slow in innovating. Maybe they're collapsing. Their value is to do things slowly. Maybe. Okay? I might still buy the iPhone 17. Okay, not sure about that. Okay, relationships. Values change and relationships can change. Okay? Personal ethics, school. Anybody hear about Harvard? Very good. The US government, we'll just say Trump. Trump cut spending on Harvard because they have their values about Middle East. Okay? Values can make or break a school, a group, culture, history. Okay, so let's listen to some of these people. Okay, so here's a little list of things that we may value. And I'm going to actually change the font here so we can all see it clearly. And change that to white. There we go. All right. Okay, so we have love, health, freedom. Let's all read this together. Okay, ready? Number 1, go. 2, 3, 4, security. 5, honesty. 6, respect. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, creativity. 18, discipline. 19, 20, and 21. Money. Okay. Please scan that and let me see what you value. This is a Google form, I believe. So, okay, yep, okay, great. Okay, so here's the results. 23% friends and family, 16% money, 10% freedom, health 16, love 13, growth 6.7, faith 6.7, happiness. I am surprised to see happiness. Only one person put happiness as number 1. Okay, that means that everyone's happy then already, right? All right. Let's see. What do you value most? The second most. Okay, we have friends and family, success, money, freedom, 12.5, health. Okay, you guys value health. Okay, that's good. Love, 6.3, education. Only one person values education. Poor professor. Okay, growth, 2, happiness, 3. Okay, and last but not least, okay, so the third most is happiness. Success, friends and family, money. So the first one then is friends and family, followed by money. And that kind of makes sense too, right? If you have money, right? You probably have more friends. I'm not sure. But freedom, friends and family. Okay, thank you for answering these questions, okay? It's actually an eye-opener for me, because I didn't think that friends and family would rank so high. In this environment, today's environment, you guys value friends and family, especially when we use our smartphones all the time, and people are playing video games, Roblox, Warcraft, whatever games there are, and social media, and yet the number one value is friends and family. That's awesome. That's great. That's great. That's an eye-opening thing for me. Okay, so that's the results. Okay, before we end this first period, let me share with you. That's me there, and I performed in the International Speech Contest. And yes, it was a speech contest, but yet I performed for about 30 seconds. And I was once very, very close to becoming a professional musician. I grew up, since I was 4 years old, I picked up the violin and I just started playing. And it's not because my parents wanted me to play, like some parents, you must play music, some kind of instrument, piano, violin. Why? Because you're Asian. Okay? But my parents didn't do that. Actually, I was standing in front of a music store. I was 4 years old, and I said to my mother, I said, I want that toy. And my mother's like, that's not a toy. But how did I know, right? I'm like, I want to play with that. And so I just started playing. And my parents hired a teacher, and I started learning, and I was in orchestras and then in schools, and I was playing concerts. I was doing everything that I really wanted to do, is just perform. And so one day, I was in grade 12. I was about to go into university, and you probably also experienced this yourself. My parents asked me, so, son, what have you decided to pursue as your career? I said, Mom, Dad, I want to be a professional violinist. And you wouldn't believe their reaction. They said, no. I'm like, what? They said, you can't be a professional violinist. I said, but that's what I've been doing my whole life so far, is just playing violin and, okay, swimming. But I was just so focused on violin, and isn't that what you want me to do? And they said, no, we don't want you to do that. We want you to go to business school. I'm like, what am I going to do in business school? Earn money? I'm like, okay, well, but why do you think I can't be a professional violinist? And my mother then interjected and said, son, we know you love a violin, but what would happen if you break your hand? I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to break my hand? What if you have an accident? I'm like, well, what if I have an accident? Well, if you have an accident and you break your hand, then you cannot play your violin. I'm like, so? Well, if you can't play a violin and all you know is play violin, then you cannot play violin. I'm like, uh-huh. And then if you cannot play violin, then you cannot earn any money. And then if you can't earn any money, then you cannot eat. And then if you can't eat, then you will die. I'm like, what? That's okay, Mom. So I went into business school, and actually I didn't even make it in business school. I ended up studying economics. And I gave up my dream because my parents were afraid that if I broke my hand, I would not be able to eat, and then I would not be able to come to Isho University and share about this. Okay, so what did my mother value? What did I value? And where did these values come from? Okay, so the question is, what did my mother value? What did I value? And where did these values come from? All right, before the break, I was talking about my mother, and just in case you might have forgotten, I wanted to become a professional violinist, but she's like, no, 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 what if you break your hand? You break your hand, you cannot eat, and you cannot eat, and then you will die. So let's find out what you thought her values were. And we have money, dreams, social experience, money, life, dream, target. She values being Asian. She'll be happy to hear that. In my highest opinion, your mother values money. Humble? Okay, H is high for me. Okay, in my humble opinion, you value your money and gave up your hobby or your dream? Okay, yes. These value of successful career comes from societal prejudice. Okay, your mother wants you to do the job about business to live, but you want to be a musician. That was an issue. To do what you want to do or don't want to do. Sounds like Shakespeare. All right. All right. To do or not to do? That is the question. Find a job which can let you survive. Okay, things, hobbies, okay. My mother valued, or your mother valued family, honesty, hard work. I value growth, independence, okay. Health, impact of the accident, children's growth. Okay, money, dream, life experience, okay. Okay, these are all excellent answers. Now here's something I want to share with you guys. So I have a friend, we went to university together, and she pursued a career in music. She became a professional French horn player and was able to play, I think it was the Swedish Symphony, somewhere in Europe, okay? So she was a professional player. She played French horn, and then one day she had problems breathing. And so she went to the doctor, and the doctor did tests on her and found out that she had some sort of degenerative disease where she could no longer play French horn. And then this memory came up, and I thought, well, that's what my mother was talking about. If you break your hand, then you cannot earn money, and then you cannot eat, and then you will die. And so my friend, she couldn't breathe like she used to, so she couldn't play the French horn, and then she could no longer be a French horn player.
And she can't eat.
All right. So what happened was she opened up her own French horn store, and because she knows what good French horns sound like, she was able to use her expertise and sell French horns for a living, and probably is making more money than she did as a professional French horn player. I did not tell my mother that story because I don't think she could handle the truth. But these kinds of stories really help us see that our values can be changed. So there are different kinds of values, and you don't have to write this down, but just know that there are different kinds of values. Everyone just read this really quick so I get your attention. Okay, ready and go. Personal, cultural, moral, aesthetic, professional. Okay, aesthetic just means appreciation of art and beauty. Okay, so how do we define values then? So we've been talking about values all this time. What is actually the definition of values? So let's read the definition first. Ready and go. Deeply held beliefs about what is important, meaningful, and morally right. All right, so it's our deep beliefs about what we think is right. Okay? Everyone say right. Everyone say right. Okay, because this is very, very important. Okay, I'm going to get to this. So this will last for a lifetime, and it will affect basically how we conduct ourselves for the rest of our lives. Okay? Integrity, compassion, freedom. Very, very important. All right. So under values is more short term. We still value them, but we call them goals, okay? So everyone read the definition for goals. Ready, go. Specific desired outcomes individual works toward, okay? So goal is something that you work towards. So everyone has a goal right now, right? Get through university, graduate, right? Okay. So an example is to graduate with honors, save 10,000, run a marathon. Okay, these are all goals. Maybe your goal is to start a business. Maybe your goal is to help the poor. I don't know. Okay, so these are all goals. Okay, and then under goals, so we have values, goals, and then we have preferences. Okay, everyone read the definition for preferences. Ready, go. Personal likes or choices in specific situations, often based on taste or habit. All right. So preferences are related to values, but not so deep because they can change easily, like preferring coffee over tea, pop music, choosing to study at night. Okay, these things can change even more easily than others. For example, you might have a preference on types of food, preference on types of music, even preference in your learning. Okay, so this is just a summary then. So you have values, goals, and preferences, core beliefs, and then more superficial. And then you have your consistency is high when you have core values, and your preferences can change, okay? So you have life decisions, behavioral decisions, and then day-to-day choices. All right, so let me poll you guys here. What are your top 3 values you think about and why? Where do they come from, okay? So let's take a poll here. Take out your smartphone. All right, so question number 1 is, what is your most important value? Why do you think you have this value, and where did it come from? Okay, so we got 20 responses. If you still haven't responded, please send it in here. Okay, so we have 1/4. Your most important value is money, followed by family and health. Good. Okay, now let's find out where these things come from. Money solves any problems, okay? If you don't have health, then you won't be able to get what you want. Good point. Okay, most important, money can do most things if you want. Okay, a person says all these things are important. Okay, life goals, family or friends or boyfriend. Okay, whoever wrote that, the boyfriend's happy. Okay, good. Because it's about live after die. Okay, I think this person is talking about afterlife. Okay, important. We have only one body. True. May come from family or friend. Get respect. Yes. Freedom can lead to a lot of things. Okay. Yes. Good. Okay. I think I have this value because of my family. They taught it to me through their actions and upbringing. Okay, that sounds like a very loving family. Very good. Okay, let's take a look at the second most important value. We have family. Okay, so we have money here and family tied. No, money over family. And then for the second most important value, we have family and health. Okay, so let's see here. Friends are needed for life. Share your true feelings. Good. Family, support. Successful people say that everything is more important than normal people. That's a good one. I'm successful. You're normal. Capital struggle. Many things can't be achieved without health. Okay, good. My happiness comes from my mom. Good. She's not worried about broken hands. Okay. Okay, without health, you can't do anything. Okay, this is an ongoing theme. Knowledge is power. Staying happy makes life better. Family is the only safe haven. Family is important, etc. Okay, good. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So here's the thing, though. Like I said before, some values can change, like political parties, wokeism. Nazi is a political party. They fell. Okay? Empires fall. Technology can change values. Just imagine that when I was young, we didn't have smartphones. We had cell phones, but we didn't have smartphones. Okay? So values can change so much in just a short time. So let me just ask you then, so how are values formed? Okay, everyone read the points there. Ready and go. Family, education, religion, peers, culture, life experience, nature versus nurture, social learning theory, role models, and reinforcement. Okay, so here is how values can change so quickly. Raise your hand if you've never watched Minecraft. Everyone's watched Minecraft except for this gentleman here. Okay, do you know Minecraft? Minecraft? Okay, Minecraft is a movie based on the video game. The video game is about building things in this virtual world. And so people have been going crazy about Minecraft, so much so that this happened. Okay, so the main character, Steve, said chicken jockey, and in one theater, someone just said chicken jockey, and someone recorded it and posted on TikTok, and then other people would do something a little more crazy. So chicken jockey, and they would throw some popcorn, and then someone would record it on TikTok and post it on TikTok, and then they would just one up and one up and one up to the point where the police would need to go to the movie theaters to stop people from throwing drinks and popcorn and bringing chickens into the movie theater. So, what does that mean then? It means that in society, we are able to change values like in just a few weeks. And that has to do with attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. Okay, everyone say those 4 points. Ready, go. Attention, retention, reproduction, and motivation. Why is that important for you? Because when we grow up, okay, or as we mature, we are observing behavior that is acceptable or not. So this researcher,
the model Pumlo doll with the mallet.
so from his experiments, he found that children do mimic adults, and how we also do the same thing as well. Okay? So be aware of how your behavior is shaped. All right, so who do you think shaped your behavior the most? Who shaped your behavior the most? Okay, let's do a quick poll. All right, keep them coming, keep them coming. So far, we have parents in the lead. Okay, parents with a huge lead. Then we have friends, social media. One person said social media, one person said books, culture, country, leaders. Okay? Okay, how about a few more responses? Anybody else? Okay, so according to this class, 60% of your behavior or your values come from your parents. That is very, very interesting, because when I grew up, my parents would take me to their friend's house, and their friends would say to me, you know, the uncles and aunties, they would say, "Wow, you're just like your dad." And I would think, like, what do you mean I'm just like my dad? It's like, what? But they could see that my father would influence my behavior, and actually, subconsciously, I would act just like him. Okay? So this result then is not surprising for me. Parents do influence your behavior a lot. Now just think about the story that I said earlier about my father being an orphan. So my father being an orphan, he didn't have a role model, and he didn't feel that safety that he needed as a child. And so he would be afraid to try new things. He would be afraid that something wouldn't work out, right? Because he didn't have that safety net that many of us enjoy, right? Because in the example, I saw someone saying that the safety comes from family. And so my father didn't experience that. And subconsciously, that passed down to me, because I would be afraid of trying new things, and also afraid of other people's opinions, okay? So very, very important to know then where your values are shaped from. So the question is this then. How can you tell what you value the most then? I would like to know this. How can you tell what you value the most? How do you know that there is something that you value the most? It's something that I really need. It's hard to live without it. Very good. Excellent. Okay, don't write down what you value. Write down, how do you know that family, health, or money is something that you value? How do you know health is something that you value the most? Feel the opposite. Imagine the fear you will encounter if you lose it. Okay. Okay, I could imagine that I struggle without money the most. I can manage without them. Okay? By sharing with others. Okay? Okay, sharing your values means that those things are valuable. Okay, yes? Anybody else? It's something what I really need in life. Okay. Anybody in the class from America? Anybody? Nobody? All right. In America, I'm from Canada, by the way. So according to Donald Trump, I'm American. So in America, every school has, at least I hope every school has these emergency drills. Okay, what are these emergency drills? It's in case an intruder comes in, especially if they're armed with a weapon. They have these policies where they can lock the doors, they can bolt the doors down, and have what is called a lockdown. Okay. In many of these situations, the gunman or the intruder is stopped by who? The police. Hopefully, yes, but usually no. Usually, in these situations, there would be a hero. Who is the hero? Who would be a hero in these situations? No idea. Security, maybe? Okay, security. Actually, it's the teacher. Many of these incidents, you will hear about a teacher who would run out and shield the students or go up to the gunman and try to wrestle with the gunman and take away the weapon or something like that. Now, unfortunately, many of those times, the teacher gets injured or even loses his or her life. So here it is. What you value, the level of the value is related to how much you're willing to risk. Okay? How much you value is related to how much you're willing to risk. Who's heard of Elon Musk? Okay, wait. Who hasn't heard of Elon Musk? Okay, everyone's heard of Elon Musk. Now, let's just put aside all of his political ideologies and stuff. Many people wonder why he's so successful in business. And it's because he's willing to risk how much? Everything. Okay, wait, let me say it correctly. He is willing to risk everything, okay? When he started PayPal, and he sold PayPal for, I think, $10 million or something like that. No, wait, no. X.com, he sold for $10 million. He took that $10 million and then he invested it into PayPal. And then PayPal, I think it was hundreds of millions of dollars. And he took all of that, SpaceX, Tesla, he risked everything. And then going into Doge, he risked his reputation, he risked his companies so that he can help Donald Trump. So, what are you willing to risk? That would determine your value. Now, John 3:16 is a very famous Bible verse, so much so that even football players would write John 3:16 under their eyes, Tim Tebow, and Steph Curry, and they would do that. For this is how God loved the world. He gave his one and only Son so that everyone who believes in him will not perish but have eternal life. And then the next verse, God sent his Son into the world not to judge the world but to save the world through him. This is an example, and I guess maybe you could say the ultimate example, where if someone is so valuable, you're willing to risk your life for that. Okay? So if you value success, then you're going to risk everything for that. Okay? If you value your family, because many people value family, you're going to risk your life for that, if that is your highest. Now, for money, it's the same thing. Some people will go at all lengths to earn as much money as possible. So how much you risk will determine the level of what you value, okay? Very, very important. Okay, to this day, I am still the most winning public speaking champion in Taiwan. I won this thing 3 times. Now, I didn't do it because I just wanted a number. I really wanted to be the best of the best of the best. And so every year, I would think about joining the contest. I didn't join every single year because sometimes I would take a break and kind of think about how to perfect my craft. But I put everything that I could into the contest. And 3 times, it produced good results. So that's how I discovered that I love speaking, is because it just wanted to come better and better and better. So how it really started, though, was one time I came to Taiwan as a visitor. I was on vacation, and I was the best man at my friend's wedding. And in Canada, it's usually the tradition that the best man would give a speech. In Taiwan, not so much, but in Canada, yes. But this wedding was in Taiwan, and I got on the stage and I congratulated my friend. I'm like, Jason, Dallas, I am so happy for you. You're going to spend the rest of your lives together experiencing the best of each other. Congratulations. And when I was doing this speech, there was a beautiful young lady in the audience, and I just noticed that she just kept on looking at me. I'm like, wow, who's that? And after the speech, I started talking to her, and then I went back to Canada, and I thought, that person is really great. So I found her online, and then we started talking, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to pursue this person. So I came back to Taiwan, and I took up a profession of teaching, and I married the girl. So I valued this person so much that I left my parents in Canada and moved to Taiwan, and, well, we're still working on happily ever after, but that's what I value. Okay, Maslow's pyramid, we're not going to go through that, but let's just say that you must meet these requirements in order to really know yourself, okay? Because what was the first question at the beginning of this lecture? Who am I, right? Who am I? That's self-actualization. So when you meet your needs and you go up this pyramid, then you'll find out who you really are. All right. So let me just end this really quick then. Okay. Perfect values come from a perfect source. Everyone read this really quick. Ready, go. So when you are forming your values, you got to ask yourself, what is the source of the values that you are implementing in your life? And for me, being a Christian, my faith is rooted in God, and therefore I am confident that my source is perfect, and my values are aligned with that, and I like to help people, okay? So discover the perfect source for yourself. And the number one skill when you're going through university and you're moving forward in life, remember that the number one skill is solving problems. Everyone say solving problems.
Solving problems.
Okay, very good. Because the bigger the problems you solve, the more money you will earn. Okay? The bigger the problems you can solve, the more money you will earn. So, master the skill of solving problems. Okay, so let's just recap really quick. Who am I? Why am I here? What do I really want? And what is holding me back? And what happens when I die? Always ask yourself these questions. And the purpose of life is not to pursue happiness. It is pursuing the right character. Everyone say, pursue the right character. Okay? When you pursue the right character, you don't need video games to make you happy. You don't need to throw popcorn and drinks in a movie theater. You don't need any of that stuff because you are anchored in the correct values. And so, thank you so much. And that's my YouTube channels. Please double my my subscribers. All right. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Thank you very much.